can this be the same guy?
That's you?
That's me.
Wow. Hold on. Let's hold that up.
On acoustic guitar and lead vocals, Mr. Chuck Kirkpatrick.
Hi, Chuck. All right, ladies and gentlemen, take a look and take a listen to Firefall.
You are the woman that I've always dreamed of. I knew it from the start. I saw your face and that's the last I've seen of my heart. It's not so much the things you say to me, it's not the things you do. It's how I feel each time you're close to me, keeps me close to you. Whoa, you are the woman that I've always dreamed of. I knew it from the start. I saw your face and that's the last I'd seen of my heart. It's not so much your pretty face I see, it's not the clothes you wear. It's more that special way you look at me, it always keeps me there. Whoa, you are the woman that I've always dreamed of. I knew it from the start. I saw your face and that's the last I've seen of my heart. It's hard to tell you all the love I'm feeling, that's just not my style. You got a way to send my senses reeling every time you smile. Whoa, you are the woman that I've always dreamed of. I knew it from the start. I saw your face and that's the last I've seen of my heart. Of my heart. Ooh, of my heart.
Yep.
Wow. Is that how you look when you were...
Hello.
Hey!
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was all of 32.
And what LP is this, though? Is that...
That's The Crane.
The Crane?
It
Okay.
was supposed to be my solo album, but the label at the last minute decided I would be more marketable as a band. So
Okay.
these other four fellas were thrown together. Actually, my brother did play drums on the album, and Les, the keyboard player, did some background singing. But this guy we just brought in to take the picture. He would have been the guitar player had Crane actually been a band, but never happened. So.
But so to say, yeah, you've been in like the heart of the business and the commercial business, and tell us a little bit about the pitfalls of actually getting a record deal and then not panning out.
Well, what I tell a lot of people is that a record deal is where your problems begin. Because like myself, I had played clubs for years and I just hated it, and I every morning I'd wake up and say, I'm quitting. I'm not going to do this anymore.
Right.
And there came a point in time where I actually did quit, and it was at the same time another fella in the band was recruited by somebody building a supergroup. So my manager and I decided, we're going to go after the real deal. Of course,
right.
what I didn't think about was the fact that now all of a sudden I have no money coming in.
Yeah.
So that gets a little difficult. And then what a lot of people forget, that when you sign a record deal, you're given an advance. You're given money up front to record the album, but that's only a loan, and
right.
you owe the record company that money.
You own for every drumstick
until you break even.
Yeah.
Until you sell enough records to break even. Of course, an artist usually only gets 4, 5, maybe 6% I got an unprecedented 8%
Right.
of retail, and I was also allowed to self-produce my own album, which
That's
was
a good
pretty
thing.
much unheard of
Yeah,
with any
that's
major label. But had I not, had the experience as an engineer in the studio, I don't think they would have ever allowed it. But my album budget was $40,000,
Right.
and I wound up spending $90,000.
So you end up in debt.
Not a
to
penny
that.
of which they'll ever get back because
Right,
they
yeah.
album tanked. But
I remember hearing like Rick Ocasek, I think, the Cars, after their first or second album where they had like
Yeah.
5 hits on each record.
most bands are bankrupt
Yeah.
before they ever get out.
He said by the time we got done paying off all the promotion and the tours and the equipment and the recording time, we had enough to buy a pair of drumsticks. So it's like basically you have to go through that kind of thing and get to your
You
third
operate in the
album
red
before
for
you can.
years. It's ridiculous.
It's
And of course,
treacherous.
touring, the expense of touring is.
So how did you end up getting to the recording engineering business?
Well, as a youngster, I was always interested in tinkering and electronics, and I played in bands through high school and into college. And my dad was pretty adamant about me not being a musician for a living, and wanting to please him and to take good advice, I thought, well, let's see what's the next best thing. I love to fool with tape recorders and recording
Right.
a recording engineer. Wow, that sounds like the ticket.
Right.
So I went down to Criteria Studios, and it actually was a visit to do a term paper for junior college,
Okay.
and met the owner down there and looked around and did my little paper. And then when I graduated, I applied. Well, actually, I'd applied long before.
Yeah.
And of course, there were no openings. So the day I was hired to work at a company in Fort Lauderdale as an electronic technician, that was my AS degree was in electronics technology.
Okay.
The day I was hired at that company, I also got the phone call from Criteria.
Right.
So that was the beginning of a tremendous career. I started there in late 1966. And after about 6 weeks, the owner, Mac Emmerman, came to me and he said, look, we just don't have enough business to warrant me having you here. He says, but I'm having a recording console built by a guy up in Fort Lauderdale named
Right.
Jeep Harned.
Okay.
He said, if you'll go up there and work for Jeep, he needs somebody. He says, maybe when things get better down here, we can have you back. So I went to work for Jeep Harned, who, of course, became the founder of MCI, which is probably one of the largest manufacturers of recording equipment in history.
Yeah.
And I worked for Jeep for a year.
Okay.
And a fellow named David Harrison, who also became a well-known console designer, at that time was working as an engineer at Criteria and playing saxophone for Wayne Cochran.
Okay.
He decided he wanted to go back out on the road, so when he left,
Right.
I got his job.
Cool.
So
And since then you had quite a remarkable roster of people that you've worked with now. You've engineered or assisted engineer, I would imagine, for...
well, I sort of started as an assistant and then became a senior engineer.
Okay. Because you recorded Eric Clapton,
Yes.
Layla, on the Layla sessions, Derek and the Dominoes, America, Delaney and Bonnie, Aretha Franklin.
Yes.
How was Aretha like? That must have been great,
Those sessions were probably the most exciting, and I'm sorry now that I didn't have the appreciation back then to appreciate what I was witnessing.
Yeah.
Aretha would record with a full live band, everything.
Right. Yeah.
And all the musicians in the room.
Right.
You'd have Jerry Wexler sitting next to Aretha, coaching her,
Right.
making her feel comfortable. Tommy Dowd was in the control room with me at the board.
Yeah.
Arif Mardin was directing the musicians. The energy and the chemistry was just unbelievable. Those were probably the finest sessions I was ever a part of, and one of them I got a gold record for, Don't Play That Song, which was on her Spirits in the Dark album, or Spirits Having Fun, I forget
Right.
the name, but I got a gold record for that, and for Brooke Benton's Rainy Night in Georgia.
Okay. You also was a session singer and guitarist for many years. Eddie Money? Tell me about Eddie Money.
Yeah. You know.
How was that? Tell me, how was anybody like? How was that?
Well, I didn't really spend much time. You know, recording sessions are usually, they start out with basic tracking of instruments, and then there's some overdubs, and then maybe lead vocal overdubs. I was basically hired to do background vocals with the band's keyboard player. I can't remember his name now.
Right.
And there was one song called "I Think I'm in Love" that Tommy Dowd wanted an additional guitar part on, so I did a real simple little.
So you came in to do the overdubs for those
But
sessions.
Eddie, I didn't see much of him,
Okay.
and what I did see of him, he was kind of like quiet in the corner, moody. But
Yeah. You work with the Bee Gees too?
yes.
Okay. Tell me about the Bee Gees a little bit.
Well, the first encounter I had was when I first. See, I was at Criteria 2 times. The first time was from 67 to 72, and then from 79 to 82.
Okay.
Now, the second time, and I came back from California in 79, the Bee Gees were already had already set up camp at Criteria, and between their records, Robin and Mars were producing a singer named Jimmy Ruffin, brother David Ruffin.
All right.
And I was the assistant engineer on that session. Dennis Hetzendorfer was the senior.
Right.
And again, my whole life is right place at right time. There was a tracking date, and they had their regular drummer, and Blue Weaver on keys, and Alan Kendall on guitar. George Perry was supposed to play bass, and he didn't show up.
All right.
And we're sitting there, and there's 3 guys, no bass, and I'm sitting in the control room, and I'm thinking, God, it sounds really...
Yeah.
So I kind of snuck out in the studio and grabbed the Fender bass out of the corner and sat down and said, look, just, for now, when George shows up, because, we got to hear some bass. And Robin and Mars did. I mean, Mars is a bass player. I would have thought he would have gone out, but nobody said a word, so I quietly went out there and got a chart and wound up playing on 4 songs on the album.
That's cool. That's really cool, man. All right, let me see. All right. You were influenced by your mom.
My mother actually.
Yeah. She played guitar.
She started to play guitar when we moved down here from Philadelphia. She bought a little baritone tenor guitar. Here, go ahead and pause it, because this is history.
And I watched the screen grow dark. I said goodbye to a world that had taken me over. I hit the wall and I needed a brand new start. I've been making a fool of myself, so I'm gonna lay low for a while. But this doesn't mean I've gone away. It doesn't mean that I'm all through. But it's been meaning way too much to mean this much to you. So I'm through for now. I've got to try to find better ways to spend my time. It got to be just like a drug. I couldn't get enough. I was losing myself, so I had to say goodbye for a while. Don't wanna be just another face, just another friend on your list. So if I close this book for a little while, I know I won't be missed. Now this doesn't mean I've gone away. It doesn't mean that I'm all through. It's just
which I always wanted to play. I played all the clubs, the teen dance clubs in the Valley and in Orange County.
Santa Monica at all?
I played the Troubadour. I played the Troubadour with the band. We did a hoot night, and it was the worst night of my life. The band completely bombed.
And you played the Who? You doing like a tribute to?
No. It was an original music band, and we played on a Monday night, which was the hoot. They call it hoot night. It's like open mic night. And I was in this band, and we were trying to restructure ourselves, rewrite all our new material, new image. We got it all together, and we took it to the Troubadour on Monday night, thinking we were going to set the town on fire, and we blew.
Wow. I mean, to even say you didn't do good, I mean, usually you can get by, but to say that it's amazing.
That night, the managers of the band dropped us, kicked us off the ranch we were living in. It was the end of the band. Yeah.
Oh my God.
That night, it was it. It was over.
I lived in Asheville, North Carolina for a number of years, so I was in like 4 or 5 all original bands. That's all that was up there.
Wow.
There were a couple of cover bands like at the Holiday Inn.
They survived. I mean, I don't know anything about Asheville. I know that a very famous
5 hours from Nashville.
producer friend of mine lives in
Carl Richardson. Yeah. In fact, you told me. Yeah, I was surprised to hear Carl is early. He's part of the MCI crew. They all worked MCI boards early in the day. Well, as he working, remember I said, Ethel Mountain is a new $2-3 million studio up there by Kurt Winneman. Echo Mountain.
That must be the studio that he's. Carl wanted me to get involved.
It's like an Ocean Way scaled down. They have an 800 and Pro Tools, and it's a church. It's like an Ocean Way in Nashville, but it's smaller.
Yeah.
So anyway, I played about 5 or 6 originals down here
For free.
Opening for Bob Seger at McNichols Arena in Denver when I was with Firefall.
What year?
1983.
Packed house. How many people?
15,000. And it was our first tour, our second gig, and Firefall is a Denver Boulder band, so they were up, they were ready. And you go out and the whole house is black, and then you start seeing the Bics. Man. Opening acts don't usually get encores, but
What other gig would you do for free?
this one.
Again.
It was when we did in North Carolina at a movie theater. We came out, and you remember Beatlemania? When they would just fucking scream, and Firefall wasn't that big a band. It was one of those nights.
I got nothing.
Huh?
I got nothing. No, I got the next question.
Oh, okay, go for it.
Conducting interviews?
Ask. I'm asking.
Yeah. Are these gonna go like behind the scenes?
Oh, yeah.
Is this like behind the scenes stuff? Okay, I have a couple of things to say.
All right, I got another.
We're
interviewing
Chuck. I got another
I'm
question.
sorry, we're in the middle of
Sorry to
interviews.
interrupt.
Sorry.
I'm in your light as well. What drug does cocaine do when it wants to party?
Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen, yeah.
What gig wouldn't you do, even if they paid you a lot of money, you'd not do again?
There's a bunch of them.
Parallel bar.
There's a bunch of them. Those are the ones you try to forget. If you're lucky, you do.
There you go.